right, well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I have the honor of having my favorite cousin, Chris Little. He is, as I mentioned, my cousin. I've looked up to him growing up. He's a few years older than me. Always someone who, what every family get together, even if we wouldn't spend the whole time talking about certain topics, it was fun just listening to him and seeing his experience as he was getting older, and someone that I was like, hey, one day, hopefully I can be as, might sound crazy to say, as cool as this guy, because he was truly awesome to be around. And not just because of, how he grew up and his experience and the ways I looked up to him, but he was really a great guy. And that is evident with his family, beautiful wife, beautiful kids who were all doing amazing things. And so, Chris, as someone who's looked up to you for years, I just want to thank you for coming on my show and welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Joe. And not only your favorite cousin, but I think your oldest cousin, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know that I'm proud to say that anymore, but when we were
Yeah.
younger, for sure, I think I used that and felt like being the older cousin, I could boss you guys around a little bit. But
Yeah.
not so much. I'd rather be the younger cousin.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Time flies pretty quick. And, one of the cool things about this podcast is, obviously I get to talk to people from all over the place, but it's also connecting with people like you. We've talked over messaging quite a few times, and, just especially about our kids, and especially soccer and others. Your daughter is just a phenomenal soccer player in the Pittsburgh area. And obviously your two young boys are just amazing as well. So it's great to sit and talk with you. I know some people are looking forward to this conversation in our family. It might be the only podcast they listen to. So, but great to hear you. So, Chris, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. So, as Joe mentioned, I have 3 children. I have a daughter who's 16, really into soccer, has played soccer all her life. She's finishing up or just finished up her sophomore year of high school. Now looking forward to her junior year. I have 2 boys, a 14-year-old boy. He looks like he's 16. He's
Yeah.
really into fitness right now. He's been dedicating his entire 8th grade year to being able to get in the best shape that he possibly can, and has really done so. And I'm really proud of him. So my daughter's name is Aubrey. Bryce is my 14-year-old. He's going to be going into the high school next year as a freshman. And then my youngest, Colton, he is going to be going into the middle school, 6th grade. So he has a ton of personality and very much different than the other 2. He always keeps us on our toes and laughing. But all 3 of my kids are really active. As I mentioned, Aubrey does soccer. Bryce is really into fitness, does wrestling. And then my youngest little goofball, he's into football, basketball, does a little bit of wrestling, but he's also into just crazy things. So he's a really diehard roller coaster enthusiast. And so we spent time yesterday at Kennywood. So Joe, you'll remember Kennywood, the amusement park here. He was in all his glory, riding as many roller coasters as he can with his friends. We've been to other amusement parks. So that is his passion, is roller coasters. So I think he wants to grow up one day. Throughout high school, he says he wants to work at an amusement park. I don't know that he really wants to do that, but talks about designing roller coasters at some point as he gets older. So yeah, really proud of the 3 kids. So yeah, and like you, Joe, I mean, you have 2 amazing daughters that are also doing great things. So it's great to see them doing.
And I think my youngest is kind of like your youngest. She calls herself the next Elon Musk. Although she doesn't like math or doing anything involved with that, but she's planning on building dragon robots and flying to the moon. So we'll see. Maybe they can work together. They can create an awesome amusement park one day.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, hopefully she makes as much money as Elon Musk has.
Fingers crossed. So what do you do what do you do now?
Yeah, sure. So I am senior vice president of a local health insurance organization, and it's more than just health insurance, really a health plan, health system. I've been doing this for a number of years. I'm focused on figuring out how we can best grow and work with other like-minded organizations. And so I think we've done a lot of really good things for the community, for our clients, for members of our clients, to really be able to make sure that they have the best capabilities to help them, our members, stay healthy and stay well. And so I think we have a lot of capabilities that we're able to offer to other, like I said, like-minded organizations. And so I've been doing this for a number of years now. Prior to this, I was a vice president of our national account business, which really led our sales efforts, sales and client retention. Did that for a number of years, for I want to say 7 or so, 8 years. Prior to that, I was in consulting, so HR consulting in Pittsburgh. And I spent the majority of my life in Pittsburgh. I been in the workforce for nearly, 25 years now. Again, predominantly in Pittsburgh. I spent a little bit of time out in the West in Phoenix, which I really enjoy Phoenix, especially in the winter. Pittsburgh, not so much, but really have grown in the health benefits arena. Before one area that, as I was going through school, one area that has always interested me was the finance side of the business. And so I went to school for finance, more of a local school here at Robert Morris College when I was there. Now it's Robert Morris University. Again, went for finance, and that was an area that I really enjoyed focusing my studies. I think the intent at the time was, I want to be able to do something with money. I really want to look at ways to be a smart investor and maybe work on Wall Street. That didn't happen. I ended up just staying local, and then, like I said, find my way into the health insurance benefits arena, but really being able to leverage my finance analytical skills, I think, has really helped me throughout my career. So yeah, it's time goes really fast. I graduated college in 1999 and been in the workforce ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it does go by pretty quick. I mean, it's hard to believe. 1999 graduating. Now I think that's when I think it might be when I graduated high school. So it's yeah, time goes by pretty quick.
Sure does.
Well, Chris, I mean, one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on here is, and kind of like I talked about a little bit before, as service members, and I'll speak for the Army, my experience, as we start to transition out, and I'm obviously retiring, but, as I was going through our retirement transition classes, there's a group of people, whether it's a first year person who's separating the service after only a year. There's people who are separating after 30 years. And then there's a group in the middle that, did their initial enlistment or their commitment if they went to like college for ROTC or West Point. Or then there's some people who unexpectedly are separating due to a medical retirement, whether it's an injury or whatever the case is, it makes them no longer eligible to serve. And in that room, despite the wide range of experience and knowledge, for a lot of us, it was the first time getting financial advice, and it's only like for one day, and also employment advice. And so in the room, there's a lot of shocked faces, like, oh man, like, I didn't really think about saving for the future. I didn't really look at investments. Outside of maybe meme stocks, right, with AMC and GME, like that it caught the attention of people. It wasn't really, hey, where do I put my money? Or if I have a 401k, and like we talked about earlier as well, is it used to be, and a lot of us are grandfathered in, but it used to be a 20-year retirement pension, and you could go up to 30 years, and that kind of got phased out. So now a lot of people are just doing contributions to a 401k. And we also have what we call a thrift savings plan, where you can take money out of your account and put it into a certain fund.
Okay.
But I would say it's the education on that is, unless you seek it out, is not there. And on top of that, on the Department of Labor type of classes we got, it was translating your skills to a civilian job. Like it's cool that you were, and I don't know, a company commander of an infantry company, and you did all these amazing things in Iraq. Well, how does that translate to a resume that a civilian employment is going to understand? So there's the two things I really want to talk to you about today is as an employer, and I'm not asking to speak for who you work for or anything like that, but as someone who's been around, could you just talk about, that what generally a civilian corporation might be looking for in people coming out of the military, how you can, whether it is the different work environment and assimilating to more of a civilian work environment. And then also later, if we could talk about investments
Sure.
and different strategies or where people can seek out and learn about how to manage their money better.
Sure.
But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Well, so first, you're younger than me and you're retiring earlier than me. So that doesn't feel right, but that's awesome. And certainly thank you for all the contribution you have made to people like me who's out there just working away. And you all in the military have certainly way harder jobs than any of us in the civilian life. So very much appreciated, and thank you for all the efforts. So you absolutely deserve to retire earlier than than I did. So first, talking through moving from the military life to civilian life, I think certainly I can't appreciate that challenge, but I've seen it. I've seen it with friends. I've seen it with coworkers. I've seen it through interview process. I've been a leader at my organization for a number of years now, in my prior organization. So I see coming out from military to civilian life some of the challenges. I think they're real challenges. One is being able to take all the great experience that you've done in the military and how to demonstrate and use that as a way to differentiate versus other individuals that are seeking employment who haven't been in the military. And I do think being in the military is a real advantage. I think you are exposed to situations in an environment that other people that haven't been part of that can't even imagine. And so, for those that are exiting the military and looking to get into a different career, a non-military career, as a civilian, I think what is really important is to be able to figure out a way that you can effectively take those situations that you've been in, and it could be anything, and translate that in a way to show how that will set you apart from other individuals that are entering into that workforce. Again, you may not have the same level of education that others may have, but you have unique experiences, and uh, leaders of organizations look at that as a way to be able to figure out how best the examples and situations that you've worked through, how that will then be applicable to whatever the role that you're going to be doing going forward. So I would ask that your audience, as they think about that, one key area of transitioning is thinking through what those examples are. So when someone that you're interviewing with asks you those questions, that you're able to really effectively talk about what you've been doing and how that will translate. Because again, it's really a unique experience. And I think being in the military enables you to have the ability to get into a leadership role quicker than those that are coming out of college, a 4-year college, or a technical school. I think you are exposed to so many different unique experiences, and I think it takes some time and effort to be able to figure out what those experiences are to you and how best they'll translate. But I would not shy away from talking about those because those experiences will absolutely set you apart.
awesome. And so what would you say? So I would say the military is a melting pot. We have people from all walks of life, um, every shade of color, what have you, different backgrounds, various language, different countries have come in. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
people are trying to earn citizenship, everything. And so we have all these people, and I think some of us fear as we transition out that we won't be able to, I guess, merge or assimilate with a civilian organization just because, like I said, everyone has the same haircut as me. You're all generally the same kind of mission focused. But would you say that having that background, but we're working with people from, all walks of life, actually is an enabler and helps us in that transition? Just because you're exposed to so many different cultures.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think as you acclimate to a new environment, into either if you go the corporate America route or any really position, that you're going to see that organizations are a melting pot of themselves, right? You're going to be working with individuals that of all different ages, of all different backgrounds, of all different demographics, of all different interests. And so I think your experience coming from the military will be a huge advantage as to an individual going into one of these roles in corporate America. And again, I think that will help you being able to acclimate quicker than others. And I think there's certainly are unique experiences, and you being in the military have been able to work with all different individuals of different backgrounds, different skill sets, and that enables you to be more effective in transitioning into a work environment. Now, the day-to-day job will obviously be different than what you're doing today or what you've done previously in the military, but it's certainly an opportunity for you to draw on those past experiences and those past relationships, and being able to figure out how best you work with different people across the country, across the world, because those are, again, unique experiences that will certainly set you apart.
Awesome. And so when we're transitioning out, independent again, it's a wide range of people. Some have, maybe a high school degree, or diploma, a GED, all the way up through master's and whatever terminal level degree, right? For their specialty. But if let's say we're like mid-range person, a junior captain, if we will, it's basically an eight-year officer, or a sergeant who's about 8 years of service. What do you view, or what would you think is more important coming out, pursuing, if they don't have it already, an advanced degree, let's say a master's degree, or focusing on a certification like project management or HR, Lean Six Sigma, or kind of a combination of both? Obviously, time being a factor. I mean, you can't do all at the same time. But what would you recommend? Like, degree or certification?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think you can ask 5 different people, and you'll get 5 different answers. The route that I've taken, and I didn't come from the military, but I had a 4-year degree, and I always considered going back to have an advanced degree in my master's. I ended up not doing that, and it really did not harm me as far as my career progression. I think where the environment that I was in and the positions that I were in previously, my experience, my work ethic really set me apart. And that enabled me to be able to advance my career. So I think advanced degrees, such as master degrees, they're great. They're really important, but they're not for everyone. And there is certainly a path to be able to achieve a high level of success without a master's degree. Now, I do think having some level of either technical training or some education in a specific area of focus is needed. I absolutely think that. I think, and some of that could be based off of your military background, and combine that with your interest of where you want to move forward with. Some level of technical training, some level of expertise in a particular field is required. And so the job market is so competitive right now, and it's going to continue to get more competitive. The more training and more area of specialization for you, combined with your military experience, will differentiate you versus the average applicant that doesn't have that training or that technical experience. So I would highly suggest that the audience looks for that, And then as you acclimate into a role, then and want to pursue a more advanced degree, such as a master's degree, I feel to me that's the time to do it. So you want to then combine your real world job experience to your pursuit of an advanced degree, because then the scenarios and the education that you're receiving as going through to get an advanced degree will make more sense, because you can apply those theories and those principles to your real world job that you're doing today.
Okay.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, so for someone like myself, basically have been an operational leader for, plans and operations, everything from homeland defense all the way through to things in Iraq, and then so logistics, and unofficially project management. And so a lot of us, or my peers who are in the same kind of career field, in operations, we kind of lean toward, as we're heading out, a project management professional certification. Others, we have I think it's the healthcare administration route, where it's, I think it's a federal, I don't know, healthcare administrators, FACHI,
Mhm.
or whatever it is. And so those are really pursued by a lot of my peers, and those options that are available out there. And the Army does a good job of making, through tuition assistance, or through our own programs, where you can apply and get a degree mid-career, through like Baylor University and others. They offer those programs out there to really help us, set us up for success, not only in the military, because the idea is we stay in and use those skills, and
Sure.
especially for us in healthcare, as a medical officer, but also as we separate, we have something we can take with us as well. But it's always scary, because when we look at those job posts, sometimes we don't even understand what you're even asking because it is tied to the language of your organization. And
Right.
so, where it says, you need specific experience using this, and it's like, oh man, like I don't even know what that is. But I think a lot of the certification programs that you talk about introduce you to those, and so it at least helps you saying, hey, I don't have business experience using it, but I know what it is. I've learned this, and you can talk it. So I think it's great advice. So now the big thing I want to talk to you about is finances. You
Yeah.
mentioned your finance background. Um, what got? I know you said you had dreams of working on Wall Street at first, and doing something with money. Um, where do you see, or what do you see finance and, let's see, we'll tie it to investing strategies. Um, what do you think is kind of a smart route right now? There's
Yeah.
a lot of confusion out there, um, especially with the dollar and inflation and everything else. So
Yeah.
what are your recommendations with finance?
It's a great question. And so I would say that read as much as you can and listen to many different podcasts. So I think the one area that is a challenge in our environment, and going back to my kids, is that the American education system does a really poor job of preparing children, uh, and those that are entering into college, into the military, to be really properly uh, familiar with financial concepts, and how important it is to save money, and not pay attention to what you're seeing on TikTok and Instagram, and all these influencers out there showing the latest and greatest thing that they bought. And I mean, the reality is many times it's not even theirs, whatever they're showing. And that is just it's really a way to get quickly into a downward spiral. I think with the availability of credit, people young feel the need to use credit to go out and buy whatever, by when they graduate college or get their first real job. They feel that they need to buy the nicest car and keep up with their friends that are buying a bigger house. And it's really unfortunate. And I think it all goes back to not having a proper education and understanding the basics of financial concepts, and the importance of saving as much as you can as early as possible. And uh, it doesn't take a genius to be able to save money and really accumulate significant wealth through just basic financial principles. But again, I think the American education system does a really poor job in being able to teach our children. And so as a result, you have individuals that kids coming into adulthood not knowing what to do. And so that's why I go back to, you don't need to be a finance major. You don't even need to go to college to really have smart investing principles. And the way to do that is, again, to learn, to read as much as you can. But and that could be audiobooks. You don't have to read a book. You can listen to audiobook. You can listen to podcasts. There are a lot of good ones out there that I can talk about in a minute that really help you understand the basic financial concepts and basic principles.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I woke up one day because I was tired of saying, yeah, I don't understand finances, so whatever, it's too complicated.
Yep.
And then I was like, well, I have the internet, I have books. Like, how hard can it be to learn some basics, right? And then it kind of took me down a rabbit hole, and totally changed my life and how it looked at how I viewed things, how I viewed time preference. And instead of instant gratification on buying this item, it's where does that money, how do I make it grow exponentially down the line? And some smart investments, some risks, obviously, and some of those risks turned out great, others
Sure.
not so awesome. But like you said, and I probably wasn't a big on Instagram, and I don't think TikTok was around back then, but you would look at Facebook and you say, man, how do these people get affording these cars and we're the same age, or what's going on? And there's that temptation to just dive in.
Right.
And you're like, oh, I'm guaranteed a check, so I'm going all in on this. And the next thing you know, you get, as we say, rug pulled, and you're left with nothing.
It's so hard to catch up once you get into debt. If you are in debt, the best advice is to try getting out as quickly as possible. And when I say debt, I'm speaking more of consumer debt, so credit card debt, auto loans. Mortgage debt is a little different than I would say than commercial debt. I think mortgage debt is not as destructive as commercial debt, and credit cards are really challenging because I think we've all been there. We've been there, excited to get your first credit card and to be able to go out and buy whatever you feel like you can because you have a paycheck. But it really, once you get behind it, it's hard to catch up, as many of you know. But there's a way to do it, and I would encourage your audience to do it try to get out of debt as quickly as possible, and really start looking at ways you can allocate money to savings. And when I say savings, so savings could take a variety of different forms. So it's not putting money under your mattress. It's not putting money into a checking account. It's likely not even putting money into your bank savings account, because the interest rate typically paid in those vehicles is marginal at best. And so where I found from my years of investing is, and I started early on in the stock market. So when I would put a couple $100s in a stock that for a company that impressed me, that I liked the service, I liked the product, I would do a little bit of analysis. And when I say analysis, I'm not talking a deep dive analysis into the specific technical fundamentals of an organization. Even though as a finance background, I didn't really use any of that. I would look at basic concepts that similar to how I would run a company and look at, is a company have a ton of debt? If it did, maybe I'd probably stay away from it. But my early investing days was more focused on individual companies that I really liked the product and really was excited about what they're doing. As I've matured, I've now seen, through the podcast that I've listened to and the books that I've read, that it's better than not investing in stocks. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't invest in stocks. I think diversification is really important. I think the best way to do that is investing in broad-based index funds. And that enables you to really ride the wave of the stock market in totality. So you're less exposed to an individual stock that of a company that you may be really excited about and may do really well, but then all of a sudden the environment changes. There's new products that come out that compete with the company that you're excited about. And then you see a poor financial performance, and then you're not protected because you have all of your money into an individual stock. And so broad-based index funds tend to ride the wave of the economy. And over time, despite the fears that always seem to be present because of the media, over time, it is proven that the stock market and as a whole is one of the best investment vehicles that you could possibly buy. And so that's where I like to contribute my savings to. If you have access to a 401k or an IRA, you have different investment vehicles within those accounts. I would strongly consider looking at those types of vehicles where you have broad diversification and you're able to take advantage of also low fees. Many of those funds have extremely low fees. And so where you have earnings, you're not going to have a lot of your investment dollars going towards the fees associated with it.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. I mean, I would say people when they first get started, from my peer group, it's, hey, let's put some money in Apple, or let's put some money into Disney, or let's put some this next great thing. But if you put it into those index funds over time and you just invest and just hold, those have been the greatest gainers. Whereas, part of the fear I feel, with my limited knowledge of it, is you would put money into a business, and let's say it's not like one of the strong ones, right? Like Apple or Nvidia now, right? Just whatever, and then that company goes bankrupt, and you don't find out about it until it's kind of too late, or they do a stock split, or they do just at the whims of whatever's going on. And it was like, man, like what is happening? I thought this company was growing. I thought this was going to be the next big wave, and then it changes, and so it's a risk. But with those, the index funds, you seem to do a lot better in the long term.
Right.
Do you have any, when it comes to investing, just to be transparent? Like I used to play around in crypto. I don't anymore because of that risk.
Yeah.
I felt like it was gambling, but Bitcoin I've been investing in for a while now, and I've stayed investing with Bitcoin for a number of years now. And a lot of the reason behind that was because of it really wasn't owned by anyone. There was no CEO like, Vitalik Buterin at Ethereum who could just dump millions of dollars of Ethereum, and next thing you know, the price drops. But Bitcoin, I've just held it through the ups and downs and the waves. And like you said, it kind of worked out great for me. But do you have any views or opinions? And if you don't, it's okay, on like these Bitcoin ETFs. I mean, those have really kind of hit the market by storm, especially like BlackRock.
I do. And obviously we can't offer financial advice.
Yeah.
If anyone's looking at seeking financial advice, you don't want to get it from Joe or myself, but more just concepts and opinions. And I would also say, before I dive into Bitcoin and crypto as a whole, that when you are seeking financial advice, it's really important that you pay attention to people that are out there trying to get you to invest in the latest and greatest. I remember when I started my professional career, I wasn't making much money at all. I was bombarded with calls from financial advisors that wanted to sell me the latest and greatest whole life policy. And I didn't know anything. And so I took some of those meetings, and friends of mine invested in those vehicles. And I'll just say, looking back on it, I'm glad I didn't. I think investing in those in those vehicles, through some of those organizations that reach out to me to try to get me excited, would not have been the best thing for me in the long run. I think you're better off seeking financial advice from there's fee-based financial advisors out there. If you want to have that financial advice, I've never had a financial advisor, but I would strongly suggest you look at this fee-based financial advisors. They work differently than other financial brokers, where they are incentivized to from more commissions. And so fee-based financial advisors are those that are paid a certain fee regardless if they make money or lose money for you. Whereas the other ones, I think it's not always I don't want to speak broadly, but they may not have your best interest in mind. But again, I think you can absolutely learn basic financial principles without having a financial advisor, especially as you're starting out. Maybe once you get to more advanced concepts like cryptocurrency, you may want to seek advice from one. But as you're starting out, I think it's absolutely doable without being a financial expert. I think some of the, again, basic concepts around safe diversification is prudent. I would also say that if you are in either the military or in corporate America, where your employer is providing access to a pre-tax savings vehicle like a 401k, take advantage of it. And certainly if they're providing a match of some sort, make sure you're at least contributing to that match, because that is free money that you are getting from the employer to be able to help accelerate your growth. And that would be literally, if you don't take advantage of at least the minimum to get the match, then you're leaving money on the table. And certainly I would strongly advise to try doing more than just the minimum. Each situation is unique, but access to a 401k, into an IRA, that I would suggest you strongly look at doing that. So when you do get to the point where you're lucky like Joe and can retire early, you would have you have money. And then also, I would also say the other interesting vehicle that are out there that are offered through employers is something called a health savings account. And so health savings accounts are offered alongside what is called a qualified high deductible plan for your health insurance. Oftentimes those are provided to employees alongside maybe other options, but health savings accounts are very unique vehicle where individuals can put money into an account pre-tax. Once you get to a certain level, you can invest it. It grows tax-free. And when you pull money out of your health savings account for any qualified health expense, and we all have qualified health expenses at one point or another. You may not have them that much when you're 24, 25 years old, but you will when you get older. And to be able to put money into those accounts and take it out tax-free is a really powerful tax vehicle and a way to accumulate funds over a period of time that you will absolutely need. And so that's another another wise investment choice I wanted to make sure that I mentioned. But go ahead.
Can I just ask? Yeah, because that's really interesting, because when you separate, I think unless we have like a small type of health insurance we can have once we transition out, but coming out, like, that's an expense that we are not used to having, is health insurance in the military. Right. Is that a direction? Like, so basically you would invest money in there, and then as you have for whatever you need for health insurance, the money comes out of that health savings plan?
Yeah, so it has to be paired with a qualified high deductible plan. And so the government says, what is a qualified high deductible plan? And many employers now offer, I would say, I don't want to say most, but a significant number of employers offer it, because it's a way for their employees to take advantage of this tax efficient vehicle that is out there. So you have a qualified high deductible plan, you have this savings account that is attached to it. And again, you put money into it, and you could either take money out and use it as needed basis. So if you go to the doctors, you have a payment that you need to make, or you go to the pharmacy, you can take the money out. What they're really designed for, though, is continue to put money into those accounts and let them grow. Let them grow over time, until you have a significant bucket of dollars that when you have more significant expenses that you can pull down from, because health insurance continues to go up. It's going to continue to go up over time, and being able to have that asset, that bucket of dollars when you're older, is going to be something that is really valuable and help you in your overall financial journey, because it is really a tax efficient vehicle. But you have to have access to a qualified high deductible plan. And so it is really a powerful vehicle that came out, I want to say, man, it's probably been at least 15, if not more years now.
Yeah, because that's between that and then even like life insurance. We have one that we have while in the military. It's just standard.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think a lot of people don't take advantage of is trying or seeking out another life insurance package separate from the military when you're, generally healthier, right? As, be first
Right.
10, whatever years versus you've been in the military 20, 30 years now, and you have all these injuries that have accumulated, health concerns. So, I mean, starting that early as well. And because as I'm going to find out, right, as you transition out, as you apply for these, you go through these different physicals, and I imagine the rates are higher if you're not as healthy as the average 25-year-old. Where would people seek that out? I mean, is that
Yeah.
like where's the best avenue to take a look at something like that?
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of different, and I'm going to get back to your cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
So maybe after this, there's a lot of different life insurance vehicles out there. There's what something is called term life. There's whole life, and what I found, and you're right. So the younger and the healthier you are, the more favorable your insurance premiums are going to be for life insurance. And so what I did, and again, this is my own personal experience, is that when I bought my house, my first house, and starting a family, I was younger. I was in my 20s. I called up my auto insurer at the time, who offered a bunch of different insurance products, and I said, I'm interested in term life. And so I had to go through a quick underwriting to assess my health, my age, and you then can choose the duration. So I think I chose, I don't know, a 25-year duration that I would be covered. Every month I pay into that. It's rather nominal because I started it when I was in my 20s, versus if I were to do it now as a 47-year-old to go get that term life, it would be more expensive, as you're just by nature, you're more likely to potentially use it. Whereas if you're younger, you're not. But I pay monthly, and then at the end of the term, it expires, which is a little different than whole life. Whole life is where you're continuing to pay premiums. The premiums tend to be significantly more expensive than term life. At the end of the day, at the end of the payout or the premium period, then you have a bucket of dollars that then you can pull out from. I'm not an expert in life insurance, but what I chose not to go down that path. I chose to go down the term life path. One, because the premiums were significantly less, and I would then use those monies that I could have put into the whole life, which were significantly more, into another investment vehicle. So put it into more of a traditional broad-based index fund or individual stocks or mutual funds. I found that was the best path for me. So using term life, because I think we all, especially if you have families, you're going to want to have that protection if God forbid something happens to you, and your family's not having to worry about at least that element of it if something happened to you.
Yeah, that's a wake up call for a lot of us coming
Going
out
back
of the military.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to your cryptocurrency question. So a couple years ago, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years ago, when the height of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and Ethereum and then all the other ones that were coming out. Yeah, I think Elon Musk had one, Dogecoin. Uh,
Dogecoin.
yeah, I think there's a lot of excitement. I stayed away from it. I did put a little bit of money into Bitcoin and a little bit of money into Ethereum. My perspective was it. I think that's unique. The whole concept is unique. It's decentralized way of currency, and it feels like that will be the way of the future at some point in time. But it felt more like, as you said, gambling to me. And so I think it's cool to dabble if you have excess funds that you want to just play around with and dabble into. I think it's fine. I think just like the stock market, picking individual stocks to ride the wave of, and you really are interested in it. I think that's fine. I would not use that as my core investment vehicle. There, I think it is so volatile that regardless of it, if it's Bitcoin or Ethereum, and I recognize there's advantages of Bitcoin versus some of the other cryptocurrencies out there, but it is so volatile. If you paid attention at all, or you go back and look at the historical run of Bitcoin, 1 minute it feels like it could be at 20,000. Next minute it's at 60,000, and then it can go all over the place. I don't have a risk tolerance that to that level that I would be comfortable doing that, especially with a significant amount of dollars. I'd rather put it in something that has shown over the last 100 years will grow around 8 to 10% every year. Year on average, there's certain years that those funds in a broad-based index fund will go down. You could see in 2022 we saw losses, but on average, over the course of history, it has been proven that broad-based index funds go anywhere between 8 to 12%. And so that's where I feel is the best bet to get returns, rather than trying to ride the wave of the latest and greatest investment vehicle out there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Obviously I'm doing okay with Bitcoin. That said, it's not my only investment, right? Like now maybe it's because I have family and everything else that my risk tolerance is what it is. But between gold, between index funds, between things that have historically have done well, and diversification, I do see a lot of people who put all their eggs in one basket with Bitcoin, and more power to them. And if it works out, great. I believe I feel like I have a good understanding of Bitcoin through a lot of study, but I never went all in on it like I think some people do. And I would even tell when I talk to people, I don't tell people to invest in Bitcoin. I tell them to study it.
Yeah.
And I tell them to look at other options. Like I wouldn't I have talked to other people who say, "Oh, you're doing so good in Bitcoin." I was like, no, study it. If you want dollar cost average in it, but I wouldn't go out and just drop $70,000 to buy a Bitcoin right now. You know what I mean? Like, you need to think about your financial. And I think sometimes it gets lost in the translation. Like, I don't think that whatever the method of investing is, I don't feel that you should limit yourself to just Bitcoin or crypto, and specifically because there's like 20,000 different cryptocurrencies. I mean, like I made one just for fun, never put it up to sell or anything, but just if I can make a cryptocurrency, then there's something wrong. So why, I think it's good to invest. And if you have extra money to put more into it, or if you got in like really early on Bitcoin, like myself, like that's a different story.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, diversification and looking at historical averages on returns. And then I would also argue this part confuses me, and you brought it up, right? Why would you put all of your money into something, whatever it is, whether it's Bitcoin, stock, whatever, and a significant amount, but you balk at the idea of paying a fee to talk to like a true financial advisor who's incentive to help you. Like to me, that never really made much sense. Like why you don't want to spend the money to learn and get assistance, but you also are willing to potentially lose $100,000 on what you read on TikTok or what you read on Instagram.
That's exactly right. Right. And there are a lot of resources, even if you choose not to find a financial advisor, take the time and effort to, as you said, study and to learn. There's a book that I really like. I've read a couple different investment books, but The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins is a really just a great book that my high school kid or my soon to be high school kid could read and understand the concept. It's all about investing in a simple way. And it talks a lot about broad-based index funds and the advantages of doing that versus some of these other investment vehicles. There are also a couple different podcasts that I like to listen to. Choose FI is a unique podcast where it really talks about different financing vehicles. The whole premise there is around, I think it started out was this whole FIRE movement. So financial independence, retire early. So I'm sure you've heard of that, and many of your listeners have heard of that as well. I think that's a really cool concept, not necessarily because you want to retire early, although I think that's appealing, but really it teaches you the importance of investing early, take advantage of a compound interest, and really making smart decisions with your money, regardless of when your intent is to retire. And then the other one is the Money Guy Show. And that's a really entertaining podcast that I've learned a lot about. They have their core financial principles that they hammer on every show. And it's entertaining. And I listen to them on 1.5, 2 times speed because there's so many podcasts out there that with just a wealth of information, you need to be careful because not all of them are great. But those two in particular are ones that I spent some time listening to get some interesting concepts and advice. And I've found those both helpful. And certainly that book, The Simple Path to Wealth. I've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think that's a good book as well. Just gets you thinking differently on how to make money. It's the concepts definitely will resonate, but it's a little bit more theoretical than what you would get from something like The Simple Path to Wealth. And J.L. Collins, the author for Simple Path to Wealth, he has appeared on many different financial podcasts, including Choose FI and a couple others that I think he's really a good, wise investor to take some advice from and listen to. So I would highly suggest your audience takes a listen to those podcasts and certainly read the Simple Path to Wealth or listen to the audiobook.
Awesome. And Chris, I know I take a lot of your time. So last question I have for you, as a father, and especially someone who knows finance very well, what would you recommend ways for parents to help instill a smart financial background in their kids?
Yeah, it's a great question. One that I struggle with because my daughter likes to buy the latest and greatest whatever. I think she's on seeing TikTok and wanting to buy stuff. My youngest son, I came home and he bought this little, I don't even know what it was. It's some sort of like toy from TikTok, and I was like, where did you get this? And it was $12. And it was ridiculous. So anyways, I think all of us will struggle with that.
Yeah.
I think, what's really important is start educating them on the importance of investing and using examples of how a dollar will grow over time. I heard a stat that I think through one of those podcasts that $1 if you're 22 invested, by the time you retire will turn into $88. So every dollar you invest will turn into $88 over the course of time through the power of compounding the interest. And once you get to a certain point, you can, once you get to where you build up a bucket of funds enough, then you can start drawing down on that, and then retire and have a nice life, a nice retirement. but I think, it's really important to educate them on um, what happens with debt versus what can happen with savings and compound interest. And to your point, Joe, delayed satisfaction is more important than having the latest and greatest, whatever it is at that point in time.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you again for the first time in a while, and have you on here. And I believe a lot of people will get a lot out of this. I know a lot of peers are very interested in finance,
Yep.
especially those who are getting out and getting ready for the next phase of their life. So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and anytime. Good luck
All
with
right.
the show.
Thanks, Chris.